Madden's franchise mode is, how can I say this? It's not very fun. Now, a lot of people have been talking about this lately, speaking out about it. Guys like Deuce, Douglas, and others. Now, me, myself, I'm not a diehard franchise mode player, but I used to be once upon a time. And this year, I actually got involved in a couple of CFMs, and I actually enjoyed myself. The dynamic of what franchise mode is supposed to be is fun, especially when you get together with a group of guys, right, trying to build up your team and manage it. But the current state of the mode isn't fun, and it's really no secret as to how to make the mode a banger. It's really just missing a few main things that have been asked about for years. I just did a video talking about why franchise mode lost all of its features after speaking with a former EA developer who spilled all of the beans, which I'll link below if you haven't seen it yet. It is a very informative video. But after doing that video, it got me thinking, what are the 5 biggest things that franchise mode needs right now, like tomorrow, to be fun again? Sometimes it just feels like EA kind of forgot about what franchise mode is supposed to be all about. Now, I don't know if they're going to implement these things, but I put together a list of what I feel franchise mode needs the most right now. Now, I highly doubt we're going to get all of these in Madden 21, but man, if we can just get like a couple of these, then things will start to finally shake a little bit. Now, also make sure to drop a comment below about what you think franchise mode needs as well. So let's get into it. These are my top 5 things. Number 1 on the list for me is definitely better scouting. You know, scouting as it is in Madden franchise right now is just way too simplistic, and they barely give you any info on the players. There's really not much to do, and that's one of the biggest parts about running a team in a franchise. You want to be able to find those gems in the draft. You want to be able to put all of your tools to use to say, hey, I really think this guy could be an instant star for my team, or, you know, find those late round guys that you think can, you know, project later on they can grow and become a really good member of your team. We don't really have that right now. And I'm actually going to throw a couple screenshots up on the screen that Deuce Douglas actually put out. I saw these come across my Twitter timeline not too long ago, so I'll leave his Twitter and all that link below. But just to give you an idea of what a more advanced scouting would look like, if you're not really sure what that would look like, it would just give you, number 1, more information. It would be a longer process, right? You would scout players for longer than the way it is in Madden now. It's like you scout them for 1 week, you put your points into them, and you kind of just get your little bit of basic info, and that's it. You really don't know much about the player. But instead, you would have much more in the scouting report. You would have, you know, player comparisons. You would have projections about, you know, where they're projected to go, and that could update throughout the year just like it does in real life. A player could be projected to be a top 10 pick, but by the end of, you know, that college year, he might now be projected late first round, early second round, because maybe he didn't perform that well that year. You know, it would also give you information to things like more of the combine stuff, or even if they have a pro day, give you information on how they did at the combine versus the pro day. Maybe it would show you their spark score and just really, you know, basic things you expect out of scouting. It could also even go as far as to show you, you know, their college stats, how they performed each year in college, so you kind of have a better idea of what kind of player you're getting. And I think this is, you know, from what I've seen other franchise guys complain about, this is one of the biggest things they want, because this is where so much of your work really goes into when running a franchise. You want to find that right guy, and right now that is not in the mode. It's just way too basic. If they could get this in the game, that would just really be a huge jump. Now, number 2 on the list, man, create a team. Look, there's been a lot of debate. Did the NFL make them remove it? You know, did EA just take it out of the game? Now, I did a video on this as well, you know, not too long ago, where I talked about things the NFL banned from Madden. I'll also link that video below. I do cover create a team in there, but basically, I do believe the NFL doesn't want current teams altered, right? They don't want you to change the colors of the Raiders uniforms or the Bills uniforms. They don't want you to change their names and move them around. I believe the NFL wants to keep that type of stuff intact because they are the no fun league. Okay, I get that. They don't want you altering their league. Okay, fine. If that's the case, we need to make the relocation options way better than they are, right? If relocation teams that are pre-made is all we can have, fine, but we can work within that at least. Right now, relocation teams have been the same in Madden for what, the past 6-7 years, ever since Create a Team was removed, right? So I think that was Madden 13. They've been the same. The same cities, the same teams, and you can't do anything. You can't alter the name, the colors, the city they move to. You can't design the stadium. You can't do none of that. So if relocation teams are all we're going to have, let's expand it and actually make that fun. Give us way more logos to choose from. Like you can't tell me that you can't drop 100 different logos and team names in there, right? Give us something more to work with, right? If we can't change the names of the teams, I understand, because other games sometimes have problems with this where, you know, people are making racist team names and things like that. Okay, I get that. Maybe you don't want to open yourself up to that. That's understandable. But give us more options of team names and logos, and at least from that point on, if we can't choose the names and logos, but we have those options, let us at least be able to change the colors, change the uniform styles up. Let us design the stadiums, decide where we want to relocate to. Give us all those options that used to be in the old franchise mode. At least give us the customization aspect of it, and then you're just giving a pool of names and logos to choose from. I think people would welcome that. If that's the middle ground we have to go off of, at least make it more fun. If you could get this back in the game, that's a banger right there. People would love this. Now, number 3 on the list, something that's been complained about for years, assistant coaches. Why we don't have assistant coaches in franchise mode, I don't know. I believe I've heard that it's kind of a licensing thing because they want to get real coaches, they want to get the real coaching staffs, but obviously a little bit of a tedious process to get all of the coaches, like literally all the assistants in the NFL, getting the rights to their image and likeness and names and all that stuff. But many people have said that they would be absolutely fine with generic names if that's what we had to do, right? Now, I think they should be able to at least get the licensing for all the major names, right? The major offensive, defensive coordinators, at least those guys. But even if they can't, people would welcome generic names as long as the system is good, right? Like, that's the key. Like, don't put assistant coaches in the game, but have there be nothing to it. Just say, oh, I just hired an offensive coordinator, I just hired a defensive coordinator, but it doesn't affect my team. No, make it actually affect your team. Make it really, be able to help players progress faster if you hire the right type of coach that specializes in this guy is a passing guru, or this guy, is a defensive guru. This guy's a really exotic defensive guy that dials up crazy blitzes. So maybe, your pass rushing progression for your players and things like that can dial up. Maybe the zone coverage for your guys can dial up because he knows how to get to the QB fast, and it makes it easier for you guys to cover. Whatever the case may be, assistant coaches need to be in the game. Now, will they add this year? I think this one is a very likely possibility, because every year franchise mode, at least for the past couple years, has gotten like the one big feature, right? Madden 19 got the custom draft classes. Madden 20 got the scenario engine / Pro Bowl. Now, the Pro Bowl doesn't seem like a big feature, but at the same time, it was the most requested feature that people wanted back in the game. So, that's why they added it. So I think this year assistant coaches is probably the thing that's most likely to happen, whether it's generic coaches or the actual real coaches. But the key here is, like I said, making them actually affect the team, because if they don't, then it's just kind of like, it's just a cosmetic thing. That's what franchise mode players don't want. They don't want cosmetic things. They want things that actually affect the team and the growth and make it, they want to be able to keep an offensive coordinator, but hey, another team wants to hire him away because your offense is killing it. Like, that's the aspect that people want. So you have to put it in there and make it work. Now, number 4 on the list, minicamp. This is another thing I see a lot of people ask about. To me, this is one of the things I think I personally want the most. Minicamp, along with the drills, like back in the PS2 Maddens, where you had the different drills. You could do, the rushing attack, you could do the linebacker drills, the defensive back drills, the precision passing, all of that stuff, and you could do it in the off season. And depending on how you scored in that drill, you could boost up, a couple of attribute points to certain ratings that, were relative to the drill you were doing, right? So if you were doing a precision passing drill and you got your points, maybe you could, you could take your throw power or your throw accuracy, like short throw accuracy, medium. You could take those things up like 1 point, right? Like maybe you scored the highest amount and you got 3 points to work with, and you say, okay, I'm gonna put up my short accuracy 1, my medium accuracy 1, and maybe my throw power gets to go up +1, right? Put that back in the game, because that actually makes it to where you want to develop players. And the thing with minicamp, this is the thing, to me, minicamp is a home run feature. There's very few features in a sports game where you could say this is a home run feature, because it works in so many different modes of the game. there's so many features that it can only work for franchise mode, or it can only work for Ultimate Team, right? Or it can only work, you know, for play now. But minicamp is a feature that it makes sense to put the money, the resources, the time into, because it lifts up every part of the game. It's great for franchise because you can develop players through it and they're fun to play. It's great for career mode, which they brought back last year, and that, you know, needs a lot of work in its own right, but you can use it for career mode too, to boost your own player up in the offseason, and you can pick which drills you want to work on. Maybe this year I want to work on my agility, you know, and try to get my speed up. Maybe next year I want to focus on my hands more in the offseason, better catching, whatever the case may be. You could use that for career mode, but you could also use it as just a play now mode, because people loved to play the minicamp drills like rushing attack. You could have that as its own mode in play now, where you could just hop in and just try to get the high score. You can also bring this online, because they used to have rushing attack and some of the drills like 2-minute drill back online back in the day, and you could compete against other people and do these modes. So like, this is great for the whole game. It's really a home run, right? Now, will this be in Madden 21? Unless they've already been working on this, I doubt it. Like, this isn't something that they could start working on now and have it ready for 21. Like, this had to already be in the plans, because this is definitely a more sophisticated thing that would take a while to build out. But I hope we see it next year, or if not, some year very soon. Now, last and finally, number 5, what I settled on is an improved scenario engine. Now, not everybody might agree with this one, but hear me out. The scenario engine is something that's here to stay. It was not something easy to implement. So when they take a lot of time, money, resources, whatever, to implement something like the scenario engine for Madden 20, it's definitely something they have long-term plans for. They're not going to put that much work into a feature that they're just going to rip right out in a year or two. But most would agree the scenario engine in Madden 20, it was just too bland, right? And I understand, like, it's not going to be real life. You're not going to have 100%, you know, one-to-one real life interactions with a scenario engine, but definitely needs more work. And it got a little bit better throughout the year from what I saw, but I want it to be a little bit deeper, right? When it comes to who you're playing next week, if you were playing up against a superstar player, it was literally the same interaction every week. Hey coach, you're playing up against yada yada yada. How do you want to handle it? Do you want to ignore him? Do you want to, you know, try to completely take him out of the game? Or do you want to just be okay with the fact that he's going to get some of his, but you just have to not let him go too crazy? It was basically the same 3 options every week, right? Let there be more options to that. Let me be approached in different ways. You know, let there be more of a struggle of certain people wanting to get the ball more. You did see that a little bit, but some of it just didn't feel organic. It felt like very generic and just kind of out of left field sometimes. So the scenario engine, I think most franchise players think good idea, but it needs to be improved upon. And I do think this will, because like I said, you don't add something this big into the game and just not expand on it. At least that's what I would think. So that's what needs to be done, because that real life interaction is what actually can make franchise mode bigger than ever. Actually having it feel like you have to manage all these players, coaches, etc. But it has to be built out more, and it has to feel a little bit more realistic than it did this year. So those are my 5 things. Do I think we're going to get all 5 of those this year? Absolutely not. But like I said, if we can get even 2 of these things, then we're finally cooking a little bit. You know, Madden 19 and 20, they at least added one big thing to franchise mode those years, like I said, because before that, it kind of went years where there was no big feature. Custom draft classes was a big thing they brought back. Pro Bowl and the scenario engine were big things that they implemented. So now, if we can get that scouting, the coaches, you know, more relocation options, minicamp, we get those few things over the next 2 years, then the mode might finally be cooking with a little bit of grease. So that's my opinion. Let me know what you think below. Check out some of these other videos right here, and I will see you guys next time.